All right, at this time, we'll call to order the City of Kenai Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for June 22nd, 2022. Will you stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Item A2, roll call, please.
Chair Twait?
Yes, here.
Commissioner Askin? Here. Commissioner Woodard?
Here.
Vice Chair Dothett? Is absent. Commissioner Fikes? Here. Commissioner Greenberg?
Here.
Commissioner Halstead?
Here.
You have a quorum.
All right, thank you. Item A3, agenda approval. Commissioner Halstead.
I move we approve May 28th.
Just the agenda.
Our agenda as presented.
All right, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded. Any objections? Seeing none, the agenda is approved. Item A4, consent agenda. Commissioner Askin.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
And a second. Any objections? Seeing none, the consent agenda is approved. Item C, scheduled public comment. We have none. Item D, unscheduled public comment. Anyone wishing to come forward and speak to an item not on the agenda? Nobody out there? We're good? Okay. We are going to move on then to item E, consideration of plats. We have one tonight. E1 is Resolution PZ 2022-15, a preliminary subdivision plat of Christine Subdivision, Jarrig Edition, submitted by McLean Consulting, P.O. Box 468, Soldotna, on behalf of Will and Becky Jarrig, P.O. Box 51, Kenai. Can I get a motion, please? Commissioner Askin.
I move we approve resolution PZ 2022-15.
And second.
I'll second.
Second. All right, staff report.
Thank you, Chair Twait and fellow commissioners. Staff's presentation is on Resolution PZ 2022-15. It's a preliminary plat for Christine Subdivision, Jarrig Edition. Will and Becky Jarrig are the applicants and property owners. That's here at 992 Bridge Access Road, and we can see the aerial image here for the subject property, which is approximately 8.34 acres. The existing zoning is heavy industrial. The current land use is vacant and commercial, and the land use plan is for an industrial use. Here we have the preliminary plat, and we can see the approximately 8.34 acres being subdivided into 3 lots. The proposed subdivision would create a Lot 3A at approximately 3.9 acres, a Lot 3B at approximately 2.8 acres, and a Lot 3C at approximately 1.5 acres. Staff's analysis is access to the proposed Christine Subdivision Jarrig Edition is provided via Bridge Access Road, which is a paved State of Alaska maintained road, and Childs Avenue, which is a gravel road not maintained by the city. City water and sewer lines are adjacent along Bridge Access Road. The preliminary plat meets requirements of KMC subdivision design standards and KMC 141080 minimum improvements required under Chapter 1410 subdivision regulations. Staff's recommendations. Staff recommends approval of preliminary plat Christine Subdivision Jarrig Edition subject to the following conditions. Condition 1, further development of the property shall conform to all federal, state of Alaska, and local regulations. That concludes my presentation. Happy to stand for questions.
All right, we have a motion on the table. Any discussion? None.
I got some kind of question here. Is this a new style brewery permit, one that was just passed by Macheki?
Well, this is just a subdivision, so that'll be a conditional, part of the conditional use, so, yep. All right, well, I don't think we, unless we need to, I don't think we really need to for this. Pretty straightforward, huh? Yeah, right. Yep. So, I think we're, unless we have questions for him, I don't see any reason to, so. All right, seeing no comments or discussion, we'll call the roll, please.
Commissioner Askin?
Yes.
Commissioner Woodard,
Yes.
Commissioner Feiss,
Yes.
Commissioner Greenberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Halsted,
Yes.
Chair Twait.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. Move on to public hearings under item F1, Resolution PZ 2022-14, an application for a conditional use permit for a restaurant/brewery for the property described as Lot 3, Christine Subdivision Number 1, located at 992 Bridge Access, Kenai, Alaska. The application was submitted by Will Jerrig, P.O. Box 51, Kenai. Can I get a motion, please? Commissioner Halsted.
Move we approve PZ 2022-14 conditional use permit for a restaurant brewery.
All right, and a second.
I'll second it.
All right. Any objections? Okay, I guess we don't need that yet. We're going to go to a staff report, so go ahead.
Well, thank you, Chair Twait. Staff's presentation is on Resolution PZ 2022-14. It's a conditional use permit application for a restaurant/brewery at 992 Bridge Access Road. The applicant is Will Yarig. The property address is 992 Bridge Access Road, which is also, as I'm sure you've noticed, the plat that the commission just saw. So it's currently at 8.34 acres. It's zoned heavy industrial. The current land use is vacant commercial, and the land use plan is industrial. The applicant has submitted a conditional use permit application for a restaurant brewery at 992 Bridge Access Road. Restaurants are listed as a conditional use within the heavy industrial zone in Kenai Municipal Code 142210 land use table. KMC 142320 definitions defines restaurant, quote, means an establishment where food and drink is prepared, served, and consumed primarily within the principal building, end quote. There are no definitions related to breweries or any other alcohol-related uses in KMC 14. Staff believes restaurant is the best possible fit for a restaurant brewery land use in the city of Kenai. Here we can see a sketch site plan. You can see this is in the while the subdivision hasn't occurred yet, this would fall into, I believe, the 3C new lot when that subdivision is completed. And you can see just a sketch of where the entrances would come off of Childs Avenue and parking and structure and so forth. Staff's analysis, pursuant to KMC 14150A, the intent of a conditional use permit is to allow some uses that may be compatible with the designated principal uses in specific zoning districts, provided certain conditions are met. KMC 1420150E, conditional use permits review criteria, states 6 conditions that the Planning and Zoning Commission must deem to exist when establishing findings prior to issuing a conditional use permit. And we're going to go through those criteria now. Criteria 1, the use is consistent with the purpose of this chapter and the purposes and intent of the zoning district. Staff's response is that a proposed restaurant brewery meets the intent of the heavy industrial zone to allow for a broad range of industrial and commercial uses. It is intended to apply to industrial areas which are sufficiently isolated from residential and commercial areas to avoid any nuisance effect. Restaurant brewery is consistent with the intent of the heavy industrial district by providing both an industrial and commercial use in a location that will not disturb neighboring residential or commercial uses. Frequent vehicle trips generated by a brewery is consistent with the heavy industrial zoning district. On to criteria 2. The economic and non-economic value of the adjoining property and neighborhood will not be significantly impaired. The staff's response is the parcel located to the north is leased for boat storage. The parcel to the south is a commercial cannery not in use. The parcel to the east is a vacant lot, and the river is located to the west. All adjacent properties are zoned heavy industrial. The economic and non-economic value of adjacent properties should not be significantly impacted by a restaurant brewery use. New construction, in this case for commercial activity, typically results in an increase of neighboring property values. Criteria 3. The proposed use is in harmony with the comprehensive plan. Staff's response is the land use plan from the 2016 comprehensive plan proposes industrial land use for this neighborhood. The industrial land use classification is defined in the comprehensive plan. Quote, industrial is intended for a variety of light and heavy industrial uses such as warehousing, trucking, packaging, distribution, production, manufacturing, processing, marine-related industry, and storage, and similar industrial activities. Public water and sewer utilities and safe, convenient vehicle access are required or planned. Because uses generate noise and odors and emissions typically at a higher level than other land uses, measures should be taken to minimize conflicts with adjacent non-industrial uses. Buffers between industrial uses and adjacent non-industrial uses are desirable, end quote. The subject parcel has a similar land use, lot size, and orientation, along with city water and wastewater connections as the neighboring properties. With the introduction and rapid growth of craft breweries in recent years, many restaurant breweries have been established in industrial areas to accommodate the industrial characteristics of the brewing process. What I'm saying there is just very common for communities that haven't addressed breweries directly in their zoning code. The industrial is usually the go-to to start. The comprehensive plan has goals to support businesses and economic development and to provide a high quality of life within the city. Below are specific goals and objectives from the comprehensive plan that support this application. Goal 1 is to promote and encourage quality of life in Kenai. Q4, to promote the siting and design of land uses that are in harmony and scale with surrounding uses. The restaurant brewery operations would be in harmony with the site design and layout of the heavy industrial zoning district. And goal 2 of the comprehensive plan is to provide economic development to support the fiscal health of Kenai. Economic development 9, capitalize on tourism industry by marketing Kenai as a destination for recreational activities, conventions, festivals, arts, cultural, and other events. And certainly a restaurant and brewery could be attracting folks and tourists really from the region, folks coming to the peninsula at large. Criteria 4, public services and facilities are adequate to serve the proposed use. Staff's response is the subject property is currently accessed via Bridge Access Road, a paved city-maintained road. The proposed access to the restaurant brewery upon approval of the Christine Subdivision Yard Addition, the commission just reviewed, is from Childs Avenue, a gravel road not maintained by the city. So therefore, improvements to Childs Avenue may be necessary to provide access to the proposed restaurant and brewery. City water and sewer is located adjacent to the subject property along Bridge Access Road. The property has access to electricity, gas, and telephone services. There are recommended conditions with requirements related to public services and facilities, and that's 4. Prior to beginning any construction, the City of Kenai Public Works Department will need to be consulted on any potential or required improvements to Childs Avenue. This condition to have a condition for safe access to the restaurant and brewery to be adequate. Criteria 5, the proposed use will not be harmful to the public safety, health, or welfare. Staff's response is the use of a restaurant brewery would not be harmful to public safety, health, or welfare. Staff believes that services are available to adequately serve this use. There are recommended conditions with requirements related to public safety, health, and welfare, and that is condition 2. Prior to starting any business operations, a landscape site plan must be reviewed and approved by the planning director. And this condition ensures site plan and landscaping requirements are met for a commercial business, including for vehicle parking. And then criteria 6, specific conditions deemed necessary, and we're going to go over those conditions now. Go. City staff find that the applicant meets the criteria for issuance of a conditional use permit as set forth in subsections E1 through E6 of Kenai Municipal Code 142150, and hereby recommends that the Planning and Zoning Commission approve the conditional use permit application subject to the following conditions. I'm going to go ahead and actually read these to enter them into the record. 1, further development of the property shall conform to all federal, state of Alaska, and local regulations. 2, prior to starting any business operations, a landscape site plan must be reviewed and approved by the planning director. Condition 3, prior to beginning any construction, a building permit must be issued by the building official for the City of Kenai. Condition 4, prior to beginning any construction, the City of Kenai Public Works Department will need to be consulted on any potential or required improvements to Childs Avenue. Condition 5, a yearly conditional use permit report must be submitted to the City of Kenai prior to the 31st day of December of each year. Condition 6, the applicant will meet with city staff for on-site inspections when requested. Condition 7, if there is a change of use for the above-described property, a new conditional use permit must be obtained. And Condition 8, pursuant to KMC 1420-150I2, this permit shall expire automatically upon termination or interruption of the use for a period of at least 1 year. That concludes my presentation. Happy to stand for questions.
All right, at this time, we would allow the applicant to come forward and add anything from Mr. Foster's report, or so please come forward, state your name and address for the record, please.
Will Jerry, and we're the owners, my wife Becky and I are the owners of the property we're talking about here. And we're kind of putting the horse and cart, parallel or the wrong way, right? We're trying to help Rick and Michelle McGlasson that owns the brewery out north, Casix. So they're buying the lot 3C from us, and we're just trying to help this, progress so that they can get to the property and start building and putting in a new facility. So we're very excited about it. We've known Rick and Michelle forever, raised our families together, right? And so I think it's very, very enjoyable from our aspect to have them be partnered up right now and coming through and going to be neighbors with us. We plan on building on lot 3A that we're cutting out of it. We're going to build a house and a shop there, which is right on the river. And we've gotten our permits from the River Center and waiting on Army Corps to just sign one paper and get back to us. So we have permits to drop riprap there and protect our bank. And so we don't have much of a move. You probably know that we live in the log house just up the road on the hill there. I'm going to have the wife with a little red cart hauling all my tools down to the new place. So, so we have some plans for us too in the future. But if you want, Rick and Michelle, if you want to say something.
Yeah, I could.
Yeah, I can get you to go because that microphone will pick it up for recording purposes. So again, state your name and address for the record.
Rick McGlasson, and I currently live in Nikiski, Daniels Lake, P.O. Box, or was it 4-8? Scotty's Court. We bought the brewery from Frank and Debbie Kasich here just before COVID hit. So it was a good time to get into it. I'm being facetious. So we wanted to move into Kenai because we know that's where the population is, and I think it's a good fit for us. So that's really all I can say is we're just excited about getting in here and actually get to the point where we can get customers throughout the whole year instead of just summertime. As you're aware, we got like 15 customers out there in the winter, and they're great customers, and they're going to be sad to see us go, but we definitely would really like to get in here and move into town. So
Okay.
that's about all I have to say unless you have any questions.
I'm sure somebody will if you want to sit tight here for a second. Well, look at this. Commissioner Askin does.
Are you planning on doing a restaurant along with the brewery?
We are.
I bet.
We are. We found that, of course, that works so well together. We do have, out there on Fridays and Saturdays occasionally, we do have food trucks, and it definitely improves business. And business, Kenai River does well with theirs, and St. Elias does well with theirs. So that's kind of what we're looking for. It'll be a simple menu, more kind of like that bar food. We would like to do something a little highlight seafood in our area, which would be one of our big pushes. So.
Anyone else? A couple questions. So I know Senator Machicki had something to do with this new brewery style licensing and stuff. Is yours carry over from where you're at and everything, or does it
ours
apply a
is-
new one?
I don't think any of that will have a detriment to us. All of our stuff is, you know, we're still able to have our tasting room and everything like we were before. It's just new breweries brought on. If you already had 2 or 3 breweries in Kenai, yeah, it'd probably be a big factor, but, and I still think we would be homesteaded into the original plan, so.
Okay. And then as far as, and you can probably enlighten me on this too, transferring, you don't really, do you have a liquor license or is it not really?
We do.
Okay,
You have a-
so those I believe are based on density or how does that work? We're not,
The new one will be based, will restrict some of that. The old, where we're at right now is, I think, what is it, 12? I think it's 9,000. You can have one brewery per 9,000 employees,
okay,
or employees.
Residents?
Residents.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a big brewery. We're gonna grow fast. Yeah. We're gonna need more space. But, yeah, that shouldn't affect, I don't think that'll affect us right now because we're kind of beating the change to all that. So, it shouldn't be a factor.
Okay. And then, and this might be more for a staff question, but maybe you guys as well. So we have utilities, water and sewer out on bridge access, correct? So are we gonna just run service line into that from there, or are they gonna have to extend down Childs with mains and then off of that? And if so, is that,
There's a stub-
who's paying for that, I guess, is,
There's a stub into Childs right now.
there is,
It's like 17 feet in,
okay,
and so we'll be connecting up to that stub off the mains.
okay.
And we will also,
When you develop in there too then, okay,
Water's out there.
okay. Okay. Anyone else have anything? All right, thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
So, yeah, I will, if anyone else wants to come forward and testify to anything else. Looks like we got nobody out, everybody's out enjoying the evening, nobody's online watching, so. Okay, and so if that's all we have for testimony, we'll close the public hearing, bring it back to the commission for discussion. Commissioner Halsted.
I think I'd be in favor of this. I think it's a great opportunity for Kenai and for just growth in general. I know that, you know, with our waterfront programs that we're trying to develop, you're going to be prime and you'll be in place and ready to go. So I think it should be a huge success and definitely something that our city needs. So I thank you for that, and I will be voting in favor.
Anyone else? Commissioner Greenberg.
Yeah, just had a question for staff. I haven't really been keeping up with the waterfront plan, but has there been talk about changing that zoning to make uses like this not conditional? So,
It could be,
Get that microphone.
it could be, again, that study's still being worked on. It could be that is a potential recommendation that the consultant team has. I wouldn't be surprised, based on that project thus far, that might be a recommendation. While, you know, over the last few decades with breweries and craft breweries, kind of, you know, nationwide, a lot of communities didn't have anything in their code, kind of like we don't have anything in our code right now for breweries. So heavy industrial was kind of the ideal one for a lot of communities to start with. But what I would say is there could be an improvement with zoning to allow more probably by right types of uses. And I'll say this was called out specifically more than once in that waterfront feasibility study specifically for a brewery in that area on the waterfront. And so kind of a long answer to it. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a recommendation from the consultants in that report to take a look at the zoning and see how we might be able to allow these types of uses be a by right use as opposed to a conditional permit.
thank you. I like the idea. It seems great. Wish you the best of luck, and I'll be in favor of this.
Anyone else? Commissioner Fikes?
I echo those same. I look forward to it. Like you say, the growth in the area and the first one to be tapping on the soil in the city limits is pretty exciting. So, yeah, I look forward to it. I agree with staff's reports and findings. I believe they've been met, and I believe it's captured the goal of the comprehensive plan. My only thought or concern would be possibly a suggestion for attention towards your landscape plan as your approach to the bridge access. If you could consider low density so you have a view of, it just seems to be a high traffic area. Obviously, you know that in the summertime and stuff, and with Carlisle and the trucks or whatever. So just a thought towards that is no big trees or big signs, but if you could have some kind of setback or whatever, which I'm sure there's probably requirements for that, but that would be my only concern. Other than that, I think it's a great idea.
Anyone else? Commissioner Woodard?
I too am in favor, as I participated in the waterfront thing too, and it was probably the first thing that came up in anybody's recommendation, so I approve.
If you could turn it into a convention center as well, then it would fit
Yeah,
Randy's
then make us
completely.
all happy.
Commissioner Askin?
I'm also in favor. I've been looking forward to seeing this happen, so.
All right.
You have 2.5 acres in the middle of the city, like,
We're not gonna buy it.
Donating's always a good thing. Yeah, we're very good at that. All right, well, I would echo pretty much everything as well. Like I said, I think it hits all the points, and it'll probably set the bar right where we want it to for any other future development in there amongst that waterfront revitalization plan. So I think it'll be a wonderful addition and good to see it in town. I know there'll be some South Miller Loop and Holt Lamplight people maybe not quite as happy, but Commissioner Halsted.
I was a little nervous at the pronunciation of Yarig versus Jarig. Thought I'd gone my whole life saying it wrong, and
you're right.
so we-
From the old country.
Yeah.
Yes. So, all right, Commissioner Askin, yeah, your light on?
Can I request unanimous consent?
We could. Unanimous consent has been requested. Any objections? Seeing none, the conditional use permit then is approved. And of course, you've probably been told there's a 15-day appeal period. If an affected party files an appeal with the city clerk's office, if not, 15 days go by, the permit is yours. So appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
Good luck. All right. Item G, unfinished business. We have none. H, new business. 2 items tonight. H1 is for action approval recommending the city council approve resolution number 2022, yet to be determined, approving the sale of 1107 2nd Street to Amy Fisher. Can I get a motion, please? Commissioner Halsted.
I move we approve action approval item recommending the city council approve resolution the sale 1107 2nd Street to Amy Fisher.
All right, do we have a second?
Second it.
All right. Staff report.
Thank you, Chair Twait. On May 26, 2022, staff received competitive land purchase applications, plural, for 1107 2nd Street and 1103 2nd Street from Amy Fisher. After discussions with Habitat for Humanity, Amy agreed to withdraw her application for 1103 2nd Street if Habitat for Humanity withdrew their request for 1107 2nd Street in their request for conditional donations for construction of housing. The proposed use of 1107 2nd Street, which is currently vacant, is to construct a 2-car garage next to her home at 1105 2nd Street. And we can see a little sketch of that on page 63. If approved, a removal of the lot line between 1105 and 1107 2nd Street may be necessary, dependent on the size of the garage. I believe it's up to 400 square feet. it could remain as two separate properties. So it does depend on the design size-wise of the garage. Ordinance 2942-2017 approved the conditional donation of 5 parcels on 2nd Street for the Central Peninsula Habitat for Humanity for construction of housing. Only one of the 5 has been constructed to date, and Ordinance 2942-2017 has expired. 1107 2nd Street was one of those conditionally donated parcels, and in concurrence with this application, Habitat for Humanity has requested a conditional donation of the remaining 3 parcels originally approved, agreeing to drop their request for 1107 2nd Street. Pursuant to Kenai Municipal Code 22-540 application review, notice of the application was posted in the Peninsula Clarion and stated competing applications may be submitted for the parcel within 30 days to the city, and that window ends on July 2nd, 2022, and to date, no competing applications have been submitted, but certainly we keep an eye out for those until it closes on July 2nd. If there was to be another competing application, then it's possible that the commission could hear this again. The parcel is within the suburban residential zone pursuant to KMC 14-2065. The purpose of this zone is intended to provide for medium-density residential development in areas which will be provided with common utility systems. A 2-car garage at 1107 2nd Street in conjunction with a single-family dwelling at 1105 2nd Street would be consistent with this zoning district. Both city sewer and water services are located adjacent to the subject property. The Imagine Kenai 2030 Comprehensive Plan outlines goals, objectives, and action items for the city, including the following supporting this application. Objective Q4, promote the siting design of land uses that are in harmony and scale with surrounding uses. And objective land use 2, promote the infill of existing improved subdivision lots, which this approval of this application would result in that. The question before the commission is, does the commission recommend council approve the sale of 1107 2nd Street to Amy Fisher? Concludes my presentation. Happy to answer questions.
All right. Commissioner Fikes,
So-
discussion.
Through the chair, just a quick question. If a resident chooses to purchase from the city for this type of transaction, does that terminate that recording of that lot, 1107, when the purchaser at 1105 takes possession and replats it, or does that stay in recording?
Mr. Foster.
Through the chair, Commissioner Fikes. Essentially, the application for the competitive purchase, again, if approved by council, that has conditions that, in this case, that garage would be built. And a deed wouldn't be delivered until that construction actually occurred. Then at that time, the deed can be transferred and the ownership would be then at that point for Ms. Fisher. The moving part on it is that subdivision, which is dependent on their design. So they could potentially just leave it as 2 lots and end up building a garage on one lot, having their home on the other, and having it meet city code. Then they just own 2 properties and have 2 deeds on it. Certainly, if the size of the garage and design and layout of it to meet city code, required to combine them, that would have to be another step that they'd have to carry out and would eventually end up with one, deeded, property, potentially.
Yeah, my train of thought on that, as a delivery person, I'm looking for one house, one address as a emergency services. So that was my only concern or curiosity with how that process went. Thanks.
So I have a question regarding and maybe this is getting the cart before the horse. First of all, assuming that the GIS is just off on this, that the house isn't over the property line, we assume, or do we not know that?
No encroachment?
Yeah, Chair Tway. I believe this has come up before the commission. The graphic representation of the lots over the aerial does not always match up
Gotcha.
to the scale. So in this case, I'd say that's quite possible. I would say when you look at other, actually outside of this image on page 67, you can see similar types of
Things that are off a little bit?
yeah. So I would say that's probably likely the case. Yeah.
Can I go to my expert on that?
I'm sure Commissioner Greenberg
Is there a
knows far
plus or,
more.
is there a plus or minus on that, Gary, that, I mean,
I think I made a thing around, it's probably about 15 feet or so.
okay.
I think the worst is the northwesternmost part of Kenai, which is about 30 feet.
Oh, that's good.
Which this is sort of northwest.
Yeah, this isn't that bad, though.
Oh, okay.
Up by, I forget the name of the street, but it's the one that, yeah, it's one of the last ones. There's a monument there. It's
Gotcha.
30 feet off.
Okay.
Just around here is probably, you can see this guy's fence,
Yeah.
Beautification.
Yep. So, okay, so my main question on that is how this happens. So if it's under, say, 400 square feet, if that's the cutoff, and that would require deleting the property line, what comes first then? If they start building? Because when you combine the properties, what if they, for some reason, then don't perform and it has to be reverted back to the city at some point? What's the remedy to fix something like that if it's been re-recorded as one piece of property? And so I'm just wondering.
Churchway, that's a good question. I'll say I haven't had that come up with a city property to be reverted. So I'd actually have to look into that to consider that moving part. But that is indeed, I'm not sure if it would just have to go back through a platting process to ensure that the original parcel, gets returned to the city if that doesn't occur. The building, so with the ownership of, and that's the other sort of tricky part where, the deed is typically not conveyed until the work is done, until the improvements are completed. So it is, technically possible to move forward and getting a building permit on these two parcels and have them be approved to move forward if they own both parcels. Typically, my understanding, and I'm starting to talk from the purview of the building official, is they would usually have that as a condition in the building permit that would get resolved, and they won't issue the CO on anything until the lot line was removed. So it would be a moving part. I do think we would be able to, from the city's side, be able to work with an applicant to ensure that, it all meets, city code. But I agree. I think there is a bit of a cart and horse. Like, hey, let's figure out the steps in it.
Right, because a side yard setback could or could not be necessary then too. So they technically could build within the setback before the lot lines are removed. And so I guess that's something that, so council will get another look at this. And so maybe that's something that people smarter than us will figure out how to word it properly. Okay, so, all right, any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, I believe we will call the roll.
Commissioner Woodard,
Yes.
Commissioner Fikes,
Yes.
Commissioner Greenberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Halsted,
Yes?
Chair Twait,
Yes.
Commissioner Askin,
Yes.
motion passes.
All right. Moving on to H2 for action approval, recommending the city council approve ordinance number 2022 yet to be determined, approving the conditional donation of city-owned parcels to the Central Peninsula Habitat for Humanity Incorporated. Can I get a motion, please? Commissioner Askin.
I move that the commission recommend that the city council approve the ordinance approving conditional donation of city-owned parcels to the Habitat for Humanity.
All right, second.
A second.
All right, staff report.
Thank you, Chair Twait. On May 30th, 2022, staff received a letter from Central Peninsula Habitat for Humanity Incorporated requesting to continue with the construction of housing on 2nd Street parcels agreed to in Ordinance 2942-2017 for a conditional donation, which has expired. In the letter, it was noted that Habitat for Humanity has not built homes for the past 2 years due to COVID-19. After discussions with Amy Fisher, Habitat for Humanity agreed to withdraw 1107 2nd Street from their request for conditional donations for construction of housing. The proposal is now for 1109 2nd Street, 1106 2nd Street, and 1103 2nd Street. The parcels are within the suburban residential zone pursuant to KMC 142065, and the purpose of the zone is intended to provide for medium-density residential development in areas which will be provided with common utility systems. The construction of single-family homes will be consistent with this zoning district. Both city sewer and water services are located adjacent to the subject properties, and we can see a aerial map on page 75 of the 3 subject properties. The Imagine Kenai 2030 Comprehensive Plan outlines goals, objectives, and action items for the city, including the following that support this request. Objective Q4, promote the siting design of land uses that are in harmony and scale with the surrounding uses. And objective land use 2, promote the infill of existing improved subdivision lots. The question before the commission is, does the commission recommend council approve the conditional donation of city-owned parcels to the city, to the Central Peninsula Habitat for Humanity, Inc.? That concludes my presentation. Happy to stand for questions.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. Discussion. Commissioner Halsted.
Do we know why they weren't able to do this before? Like, we'd approved it and there was plans, and
I believe COVID was the answer, yeah?
so they believe that they can meet requirements now?
Through the chair, Commissioner Halston. Yeah, and they actually did build one single-family unit on one of the 5 originally conditional donated with that ordinance. And then the timing of COVID-19 was stated in their letter on page 70 that interrupted, their construction of the remaining. And I will say, when you review on page 73, the way the ordinance was written, it's very, it's very like you have to do your first one and then really immediately do, the next year, the second one, and so forth. And so really just by missing even just one year, really expires what would be possible. So even just getting what I mean to say is really it's just having 1 year throw you off throws all the rest of the years off, and it sort of becomes not functional.
Do we know, is this pretty typical on how they operate as far as the donations go instead of one at a time kind of a deal? I mean, I would assume it makes sense to do a block of them at some point, I guess.
Yeah, Church, I'm not sure. I think that's a really good question, and maybe something that moving forward could be a follow-up question directly to Habitat for Humanity. I'm not sure what their typical process is. I'll say that's exactly what was found in the ordinance. I'm just not sure what their kind of methodology is when, or sort of, resources that can be gathered to build, housing. I don't know if it's just, they can only do one at a time. I don't know.
Right.
I'll say I don't know, and that could be a good follow-up question for them to give us a little bit of idea of how their programming works.
Okay. Well, we're another 100 years before we have a pandemic, so we'll deal with it when that time comes again. So, anyone else? All right. Seeing none, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fikes?
Yes.
Commissioner Greenberg?
Yes.
Commissioner Halsted?
Yes.
Chair Twait?
Yes.
Commissioner Askin,
Yes.
Commissioner Woodard,
Yes.
motion passes.
All right. Item I, pending items have none. J, reports. J1 is City Council. Vice Mayor Glendenning.
Thank you, Chairman Twait. On June the 15th, the City Council met in chambers at 6 p.m. And we had scheduled public comment from Representative Ben Carpenter, and it's an update on working with the State Attorney General on the rights of grand juries. And this has been a smoldering issue for some time. And I think it's progressing in a reasonable style without too much shrillness. There's some reasoned inquiry and thoughtful, how can we say, interpretation of grand juries in the state. And I'll just leave it at that. But we can, Ben Carpenter he's unopposed, so he will be in Juneau, this next session. And his information is in public documents, and he will comment as we get closer to some resolution on this. I don't know what the resolution will be. That's in the hands of the legislature, but I think something positive will come out of this. We enacted an ordinance to accept and appropriate funding from the State of Alaska Department of Natural Resources, Division of Forestry, to support spruce beetle mitigation and hazard fuel reduction. This is important to our community. There's quite a bit of money involved. We're going to start by going through city properties, danger trees. I think in a previous meeting here it was pointed out that in the city park over by the Armory, there's quite a few dead trees in there, and they're going to pull the danger trees out first, and go around to city properties and pull the danger trees out, and then go back and harvest those spruce bark beetle trees that are dead. Also, they're going to pay attention to going through some of these gullies that emanate from the perimeter of the airport. And those, if they catch on fire, it's just a wind tunnel through there, and they're going to make sure that they denude those of fire source. Those are the first two goals, and this program is going to go on, I think, for 3 years. We postponed indefinitely a resolution awarding a sole source contract to perform a communication tower study. And instead, in response to an open request for information, we received a responsive bid for a contractor to do a communication tower study. This involves public safety. The structure of the building is like 50. The tower is like 50-some years old, and so the condition of the steel and I almost used the word erection. The construction of the tower would be examined as well as the type of equipment that could be and should be installed on it. So it'd be a thorough examination of the structure, and that was requested by a public safety. We authorized the use of equipment replacement fund and authorizing the award of a contract for purchase of a replacement ambulance, and this is about $250-some thousand. It's needed. The ambulance that we have has run its useful life out, and we can't find parts, replacement, whatever. As it is with the supply chain, it's going to take a little bit of time to replace the ambulance and get the new one in our possession, but it is in the works now. Until then, the equipment we have is adequate to the needs. We amended the employee classification plan by changing the title of accountant class of employees to a controller class and increasing the range. What this does is it has a little higher standard of how can we say a requirement for education, for ability to thoroughly examine municipal records, and will also give some backup to Terry Eubank, our current our current financial official. It'll give him someone to work with. Our finances are getting more and more complex as time goes on. And while the person that we had as a bookkeeper that was doing a fantastic job, they decided to retire. And so this gave us an opportunity to upgrade the requirements of that supporting role. We authorized a binding of airport owners and operators liability insurance at the airport for July 1st through June of 2023. Let's see where I have here now. We ordered authorized a budget transfer in the general fund, Public Works Department, Streets Division for the purchase of sanding equipment. We're able to purchase it locally, and this is the type of thing that will go in the back of a truck. And the distributor hangs over the bumper or the rear bumper and spreads sand. The one we have now is worn out and is due to be replaced. We enacted, as amended unanimously, amending the appendices to the Kenai Municipal Code to delete cemetery regulations, amending Title 24 Municipal Cemetery to include certain portions of the appended cemetery regulations and make other housekeeping changes adopting the Kenai Municipal Cemetery Regulations Policy. What this means is that we have an addition to our cemetery, and it's an area that's to the upland side of where the current cemetery is on the other side of Floodplain Road. And the style of a cemetery will be a little bit different. There won't be, without getting too negative about it, there won't be, like picket fences and things like that allowed. There's strictures as to the type of memorials that can be put on there, markers and stuff like that. More in line with what modern cemetery practices are. And we discussed it quite a bit, but in the end, we all came to a unanimous conclusion that as presented, as discussed, and as amended, we proceeded with it. This was brought to us by the clerk, city clerk, and our Parks and Recs director. We also, along with this, adopted a resolution removing the moratorium on the purchase of standard cemetery lots for the sole purpose of reserving a cemetery plot not being used for immediate interment. Where we were is we were up against the amount of available places for internment. Now with the new addition, the new cemetery, we once again can have people purchase or make arrangements for a cemetery plot so they can have estate planning for their loved ones, and it's a more how can I say, reasonable proposition to my way of thinking. Oh, let's see. What we did also is unanimously we approved the recommendation of the representative for appointment to the Kenai Peninsula Borough Planning Commission. Yay! And so Diane, you're in the saddle again, and thank you for your fine reports. And a lot of times you say, okay, this is what we did at the borough, and somehow it applies to us, and you give us a heads up and a little talk story about it, and we sure appreciate that. And that ends my comments. Any questions?
Any questions? You did such a good job. No one has a question.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay, well, we will go to J2 Borough Planning, Commissioner Fikes.
Alrighty. June 13th, we assembled and met, and to everyone's surprise, the Plat Committee ran till almost 9 o'clock. They started at 5:30, And what they were struggling and working with that was causing so much discussion was a area in Moose Pass that they're doing some road construction and development of, and so the Department of Transportation has captured a lot, and so there's some storage that's taking place in that area, and it's impacting some seasonal folks that are doing some events and weddings, and now all of a sudden they have all these trees that are dropped, and they're staring at all this industrial equipment, and so that was kind of the discussion and whatnot, so there was some pullback on that property, and it was postponed until the next meeting. And so we assembled at 9 o'clock, and we went ahead and did a section line easement in the Quartz Creek area, and we went ahead and approved that one. That one's kind of exciting. Three Bears is coming to town. They're gonna be opening up a new shop in the Sterling area, and so we were tying in some of the lots that are gonna be going in place for the construction of that area. And then we shuffled over to a utility easement, and this one was Cole's Corner, and this was in the Kasilof area. And we approved that one, no real issue. And then the one that caused us the most concern was the unnamed public right-of-way in the Moose Pass area. And so that was, like, say, the one that they decided to go ahead and postpone. And let's see. There was some discussion on an unnamed public right-of-way. They wanted to name it Bear Creek, and then somebody else wanted to name it Hikers Ave. Somebody else wanted to name it Base Camp. And then there was discussion on why and who, and so that one got postponed. Then we had a conditional use permit resolution, and that was to install a fence within the 50-foot habitat district, and that was down Big Eddie's Road on Retreat Court. And there was a little bit of discussion on that one. I didn't do it, you did it. Why did you get to do it? I've never done it, but I'm allowed to do it, so everybody approved, and I'm going to do it, and now my neighbors aren't happy. So that's how that story went. It followed the rules, and so we approved it. And then we came up to an ordinance authorizing a negotiated lease option and subsequent ground lease of certain properties containing 40 acres or more or less in the Utopian Power for the development of solar farm. This is way out in the tumbleweeds, but again, that's kind of an exciting development that I believe ties in with HEAs and their request for solar energy. So that's kind of exciting. That's on the cusp of getting developed. And then we jumped on the resolution for authorization of acquisition of real property located in Soldotna. Again, discussion brought up for where do we put our new central emergency services. And so, for lack of a better way to explain it, where the old ACS warehouse used to be, kind of over by Kaladi Brothers Coffee Shop. So it is my understanding that that is the new location that meets all of the criteria that satisfies everybody's happiness for insurance requirements and locations or whatever. So we went ahead and approved that. And then let's see, there was a total of 10 plats altogether that got approved. And that wrapped us up within an hour. We got out of there at 10 o'clock after we had that windfall of the plat committee. So Robert Ruffner is the new planning director. He used to be on the commission himself and was recently promoted up to that position, and so he's got a lot of experience and background that seems to kind of help the meetings flow. So he also had some feedback as a time that he sat on the material site committee too. So good skills, good experience that are shared. That's all I got.
All right, any questions? Commissioner Halstead.
Were you saying that that CES building is going to be in the same location, or it's going to take over that ACS warehouse?
It showed on the map, it's not gonna take over that building, but it was like that general area. That's why I apologize, I don't have the actual coordinates. But that was my understanding when they were talking about it, is they had looked over by where the Kenai Brewing Company was, but they couldn't go that far out because then that would drop their insurance requirements for people. So then they pushed them back towards the Soldotna area. And there's like a lot in between it. So the warehouse kind of sits towards the coffee shop, then there's a parking and kind of an empty lot, and then Foster's, I think. And I think that's where it is in there. Because even then I was looking at them going, is this going to be enough? Is this going to be enough? And they said it would accommodate all the big trucks and everything, so, yeah.
I was just worried if ACS was gonna downsize some more.
Oh, I could be totally wrong, but the way I was looking at it, it was the empty lot area next to it, because I was thinking it wasn't that big, but maybe they have more plans to capture that too.
Any other questions? Do you have a question?
Oh, yes. Just the eyes and ears for Amy Fisher. Do I need to be here any longer?
You are free to go.
Aw,
We appreciate you being here, though.
Thank you.
We should
was
make you
super
stay.
nice.
We should make you stay for the whole thing.
Like to be safe, huh?
All right, take care. All right. We will move on then to J3, City Administration. Mr. Foster.
Thank you. A few items of note for the next meeting on July 13th, and that is one of those handful of times a year where there's 3 weeks between meetings. So hopefully folks get to enjoy some of the amazing summer weather we got. We do have 2 items submitted, and that's a plat application and then a lease renewal application. I did want to give a very brief update on the bowling alley demolition. So we staff has been in touch with the new owner. So they've closed on that really recently. And they notified us about their plans on demolition. I believe actually started on that and said that would be complete by the end of July. I do have a big announcement. I do regret having not had the opportunity to inform you in advance, but this is my last Planning and Zoning Commission meeting with the city. I am. My last commission meeting, my last day with the city is this Friday. I'm going to Homer. I accepted a position there. I did want to say to all the commissioners here, you've been a fantastic commission to work with, best commission I've ever worked with as a professional planner. The dedication you all have to serving your community in the role of planning and development as a planning and zoning commissioner is really top notch. I think you do a tremendous service to the community. You also make my job a lot easier too. So thank you for that. And I did want to let you know there is an interim planning director, and so that's Max. No, it's Max Best. He starts on Monday. And I met with Max today for several hours to start giving him kind of the lowdown of everything that's for a little bit, yeah. And so many of you do know that Max was the planning director for the borough for 20 plus years, I believe, and so had a very good conversation with him. And I'll just say it's kind of a load off my mind that he's coming in to be interim director. To keep the department going until a full-time position can be filled. He starts on Monday, and that's everything I've got. Thank you.
So that means that, like a substitute teacher, we won't be able to pull it over on him quite so much as some other substitute teachers.
Probably not.
So, all right, Commissioner Askin.
Can you tell us who did buy the bowling alley?
Yes, I believe that's information's being provided. Let me just double check on that, and that's something I'll just put on the little list to continue updating the commission. I don't want to put anything out there that isn't ready to be shared yet, but what I will say is that it did close maybe within the last week, so not a ton of information to share beyond that, but let me just put that on the list, so maybe at the next meeting that could be provided.
It's not Hunter Biden, is it?
Yeah. Don't share the.
All right, any other questions?
Well, congratulations on your appointment, and thank you so much. And just a tip on Homer, better study up on that Grunwald Griswold case.
No.
Yeah, that'll be a fun one.
Oh, my God, what a, yeah, that's foundational.
Yeah.
Okay, additional public comments. There's nobody left.
Can I be public?
You can be, go ahead.
All right, yeah, I'll just take this opportunity to commend Director Foster on his stint with us here in Planning and Zoning Commission. He was always receptive to ideas and wouldn't accept everything at face value and research
You
a
are
little bit.
muted. You can mute or unmute yourself by pressing star 6.
Can you do that for me?
Sorry about that. I'm not sure what happened here.
And so anyway, he was always positive in his response and would not give spurious answers. It was always reasonable and considered. We're going to be sorry to see him go, but I think Mrs. Venuti is on the council down there in Homer, and so I would make an effort to make a contact with her. I worked with her husband on the planning commission with Max Best, and actually Max the elder back in '79 or something. I started doing subdivisions here in the borough. So your interim replacement, I think, will serve us well, but he's going to have to hustle to keep up with you a little bit too. And anyway, just thank you, and you'll be in the neighborhood, so yeah, happy trails.
Probably let that beard go another foot, 2 or feet longer or something too when you get down there, huh? All right, so we went there. Next meeting is on the 13th, 3 weeks from tonight. Commissioners' comments and questions. Commissioner Woodard.
Well, I'm just excited to see that stuff on the waterfront starting before 10 to 20 years, like they said at that meeting. And it's been a pleasure, Ryan.
Commissioner Askin.
I'm very sorry to hear you're leaving, but all the best, Ryan. I too am excited to see the brewery come in and we can start looking at some stuff happening on the riverfront.
Commissioner Halstead.
That brewery wouldn't happen to have a, like a drive-through boat dock that we could just,
Wouldn't that be, yeah, see, there's.
not in the plans?
Louisiana, they would.
Exactly.
Mr. Foster, you definitely brought a level of professionalism and you will definitely be missed. I think you're the third director that I've seen in my time being here, but unfortunately, we're going to be losing a lot with you moving to Homer. So wish you the best, but dang it.
Pretty soon we're going to have to ask, is it us? You know, I mean, Commissioner Greenberg.
Ryan, thanks for your time here at the city. We're sorry to see you go, and best of luck.
Commissioner Fikes.
A lot of the same. You did have some very detailed, very thorough, and absolutely a wealth of experience that will truly be missed. So please come back and let us be a resource for you.
Yeah, and I would agree. Hopefully we've got a boilerplate template on how our staff reports and things are set up, and maybe we can strong arm the old dog that he doesn't try to fix anything that way, and we can just go forward as is. But again, having worked with a handful of directors, I would say you are definitely right up there at the top. So I appreciate all you've done for the city and for us, and made our lives pretty easy too for the most part. So hopefully it worked both ways. So with that, no other business before us. The meeting is adjourned.